Okay, everybody, welcome to another thrill episode of Knife Chat with Cranky old bastard me. Sorry about the way I look. I just came in from the studio. Things are popping here. Um, we got some extra work to do to get ready for the medical stuff we got going on the end of this week. I got to get some more stuff up on the website. I got to get some filthy lucre so I can pay some bills and co-pays and everything else. I'm having a sale on my website at atar.com, atar.com. I'll be putting up four more pieces tomorrow on Tuesday. Two pattern gold, one Woots, and one of the last Japanese swords I had done for book 4. I found a couple blades I stashed away for a rainy day, and it started raining, so I got to finish those up. Matter of fact, I got the mounts already on it. They're going to be Dragonfly, and it's going to be done with a gray, all black. Here's a brochure for it right here. And there's the Gucci Dragonflies. I'm kind of fond of Dragonflies. But anyway, let's see if anybody shows up. See what's new and exciting here. Like I said, I'm working extra hours. I am drier than the Nevada desert in June. Gotta stay hydrated. It has been so muggy out here. To grow gills in order to walk from the house to the studio. Anybody show up yet? Not yet. I'll give it a few more minutes. And if nobody shows, I will close her down. Let's see. Okay. Memorial Day. I'm going to start off with that. Let's all reflect upon those that gave their lives in the service of our country, whether it was in the military or in or firefighters or police officers or search and rescue folks. If you serve this country at any capacity that had any kind of danger at all and you laid your life down, this day is for you. I lost friends. I lost quite a few friends, one of which was a very dear friend of mine when I flew that aircraft into the Pentagon. I lost my friend, and I still miss him to this day. We used to, whenever I went back to D.C. For the Guard, I would make sure I always had a couple hours free for me to go out with him, to go out and get some crab somewhere on Chesapeake Bay. And we had a great time. I toured the USS Constitution a couple of times. Interesting ship. It really opens your eyes to what 18th and 19th century warfare was like. It was pretty brutal, especially naval warfare. But be that as it may, so let's think about those that have gone before and give them our thanks, and let's keep this country strong. And let's hope that nobody else has to die in the service. But I took that chance. I served 32 years from 1974 to 2006. And I've seen folks that didn't make it. But if it wasn't for them, this country wouldn't be here. And we owe a debt of immense value. So all I can say is thank you. I'm going to try to keep this country strong. With that being said, okay, we're 5 minutes in, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, all ships at sea, as Walter Winchell would say. Mr. and Mrs. America, all the ships at sea. Was that it? That was it. But that was the golden age of radio. And they say I have a face for radio, but I don't know. So what else to talk about? Pattern welding. Let's talk about pattern welding for a while. That seems to be a lot of interest in that subject. Basically what it is, you're taking two similar yet dissimilar metals or more, and you weld them together. Not with a torch, not with a buzz box, not with a TIG, MIG, or arc. You're heating it up and smacking it with a hammer. And that's a weld. Most of your modern welds, I don't really do as well. They're casting because you actually render the material molten, and that's how you join the pieces. Whereas on a traditional forge weld, they're not molten. The surface just gets a little bit sticky, and everything goes right. They stick together, and they become one. Much better weld, but you can really screw up the piece. You don't know what you're doing because it just plays holy hell with your grain structure. And that's why the subsequent forging and thermal cycling after you forge weld on the drawing and cutting and stacking and rewelding helps so much to refine that structure, not only from the thermal cycling, but also from the impacts of the hammer. Now, a lot of people saying, oh, you can't fracture grains with a hammer. Yes, you can if you forge it enough. If you put a reduction of about 50% in thickness, you're going to start fracturing grains. Anything after that, you're really not doing much. But you do make a difference. But if you don't know what you're doing, you totally spooch, and that'll mess up your blade. Okay. More on the pattern welding. Materials to use. Traditionally, there was a chain of thought many, many years ago with John Anstey mostly, and not so much Bo Hickory, but mostly. Everybody was thinking, myself included, that most of your traditional, dark age, migrationary period sword blades and other knives that pattern weld to them were based on carbon differences, pretty much. That wasn't truly the case. A lot of it had to do with phosphorus, differences in phosphorus, trace elements, mostly phosphorus and carbon. Given the type of ore that they were using, the bog iron, very heavy in phosphorus. You also get trace elements from the other areas where the ore originated from, and that would cause differences. But today, with the nickel and chrome alloys that they have, such as L6, 15 and 20, A2 of BE, all these other ones that have not only nickel but chromium, a little vanadium in them. Not so much that it gets red hard. Little moly, molybdenum, not so much that it gets red hard and causes it to air harden, as well as carbon differences. So my favorite is a mix of either 1084, 1070, 1084, 1095 electrite, all three electrites, which is 95, a little bit of silicon in it. Tough, very, very tough steel. And L6. L6 has between 60 and 80 points, depending on the melt and the specifications. I have seen it go high as 85 to maybe 90 points carbon. It's all blade steel. Yeah, it's very good steel. You take that and you marry that to the 10 series, you get a really, really dark etch from manganese in the 10 series, and not so much a dark etch on the L6. So you get this wonderful, coloration difference, and the patterns really pop. This one here, which I just finished here, as you can see here, that's better. This is L6 and 1095. L6 1095. Black marks here is from where the iron sheathing it etched out a little bit more. It should have. I just made a new batch of ferric chloride and it got really aggressive. Whenever change etchants, you got to be a little more attentive than the other one too. They really got into that softer material. But the ferric chloride, it's a lot milder than, let's say, nitric acid or hydrochloric acid or aquaresia or even sulfuric acid. It will attack the steel though, and it will go after other things as well, especially anything copper, any copper alloy. It's a printed circuit board etchant. That's copper. It take the copper right out of it and dissolve it. But it works well in a minor, very, very low concentration, like maybe 0.5–0.75%. You don't need much. It just takes a long time. And the slower etch to me is a more even and much more effective etch. But that's my opinion. And it's about me and opinions. So anybody else here showed up? Not yet. We're 12 minutes in. I'm going to give everybody about 10 minutes, and if nobody shows, I'm going to call it a night because I got a ton of stuff I got to do. I got to finish up those two I just showed. I got two over here I got to finish up. I got to do leather for those two. I got to do leather for like 5 other pieces. I got to wrap that sword. Sword held right here. I got to wrap that. And grab something to eat and do what I got to do and take care of the wife because she's, like I said, she's going in for a major event here at the end of the week. I am out incommunicado, as they say, for a few days after Wednesday forward. Please understand that that's what we're doing is we're taking care of what needs to be taken care of. Hopefully she'll be okay. The doctors that are doing this are very highly regarded, and I'm just a little bit worried. But that's the way it goes. What else? Will somebody else show up? Yeah, I feel like I'm like Uncas here, last of the Mohicans. Getting the little self conscious here about nobody showing up, nobody likes me. Nobody likes me, everybody hates me. I'll go eat some worms, I guess. Actually, worms are very good protein. I'm not the boogeyman from WWE or WWF or DC or whatever. He was part of it. That goes way back. What else? Book four news. I'm still plugging away. I am working on the fitting section again. Casting bar stock out of scrap or alloying your own bronze, white bronze, nickel, silver, various brasses, other copper alloys, tin based, aluminum, bronze. The nice thing about casting your own is, one, you're recycling if you're doing that. Even cartridge brass. I shoot a lot of 22, and even though they're a way to reload the 22s now, it's like 7 cents a round. I remember it was like 2 cents a round. It wasn't that long ago, 10 years, 15 years. And the brass there it's a good quality brass to make sure there's no live ammo in it. And you just dump it in the crucible and just melt it down and keep adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. And you get the cartridge brass, which is a very beautiful material. When polished, it takes a beautiful mirror polish. It doesn't last because it's copper on it, but makes nice fittings. When I was overseas, I was a big fan of going around, and let me get this off my head, of looking at the local craftsmen. And when I was in theater operation over in Mesopotamia Minor, a lot of the guys, local craftsmen, would police up brass cases. Now, a lot of the ammo coming from the Russian stuff was steel cased. That wasn't worth anything. There was some brass, and they would guard that. I mean, they would just scarf that up. And of course, our supplies here, the 5.56, and the 7.62 were brass cased, and the 50 cal were brass cased, and they would basically gather all those up and then melt those and make knife fittings out of it, or whatever else they needed. It was kind of neat to watch. And since I spoke the language and I had family over there, I was able to get in better with the locals than anybody else would. And I caught a little bit of heat for that, but hell no. But it was kind of neat seeing them do that. And the techniques are the same. I mean, this is, like I said before, this is dark age tech. And there are only so many ways you can make something in this art, in this craft, in this occupation. I don't know if you can call it an art or a craft or a science. I mean, there's a little bit of everything in there. I mean, the old guys from 1,000 years ago, they might not have the science, but they have the knowledge. They might not know why it worked. They know it did work. They did a certain way. They weren't dumb at all. I mean, they were a lot more with it than we think. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, just because you don't know the reason why something works, but if you know it works, if you do A, B, and C, who cares? It works. Leave that for the next guy to figure out. And that was the way for 1,000 years, especially with roots. I mean, there's so much stuff going on with that, and so much conjecture. And, Verhoeven and Pendre, when they did their research on it, they sort of put a monkey wrench in the process that they published. They didn't tell you the whole truth, and I won't at this time divulge what that is. I will do it in my book, but I won't do it here. So I do have the whole process down on test melt and times and temperature changes, temperature ranges, charges, percentages of material going in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, woods fell out of favor right about the time the Raj came in India. And the Brits came in, and the Indians on the subcontinent all the way up to basically all that area of the world, Indian subcontinent, to Mesopotamia, Asia Minor, you want to call it Middle East. They basically dummied up and wouldn't let them know what it was. And then you have the other areas up through Georgia, Russia, Belarus, North Africa, the Berbers. There was a gentleman by the name of Joe back in the 1980s who studied Berber tribal smiths in North Africa. And he was doing early roots. I wish I could find more information on him. The only thing I could glean was an article from what was called American Blade back then, I think, American Blade magazine, about that, and went into sort of skimmed his relationship with the Berbers and a few other things on the process. It didn't go into what he was doing. Well, it was what he was doing, but didn't go into how he did it. And that's not the reason I wrote these damn books. I mean, if you want to be secretive about it, that's fine. That's up to you. But if you keep this stuff to yourself, the whole industry is going to go to hell. I mean, it's just not right. I mean, now there are some things I know how to do that I'm not going to share, and that's not out of any sort of maliciousness. I don't want somebody to really get messed up. And the number one is mercury gilding. I mean, I've done it a couple of times. It's a beautiful, beautiful result, but boy, it is nasty. That and lead heat treating and molten lead. That's not right either. I mean, use a lead tin mix or a lead tin silver mix that melts at like 450, 425, 450. It's still lead, and you're still going to be playing around with hot metal. And that stuff it's unless you want to get plumber's disease and walk around here with your hand like this for the rest of your life. And your feet the same way, you get the drops. That's it. And with mercury gilding, you become mad as a hatter. And that's where it came from, the term mad as a hatter, because they were using mercury in millinery work. And it messes you up. It gets you some serious neuropsychological in-ear problems. But things we do for our art, huh? I should talk. I'm so stoved up. I can't even cut a pencil anymore. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm doing this, like I said, all my life, one way or the other, since I was a kid. And I've had some successes. I've had some failures, a lot of failures. I learned a lot. You know. And Edison was right. You learn more from failure than you do from success. And Edison, he was a real rascal. He had some really, really good people working for him. Of course, he took the credit, but that was Edison. But he had a lot of good people working for him. He did not like Nikola Tesla very much. I'm pretty sure Tesla felt the same way, but Tesla was a unique man. He was the 20th century Da Vinci. But you got to share. Back to what I was saying, you've got to share this material. You've got to share these techniques. You've got to share the processes, because if you don't and it dies with you, what good did you do? I mean, if nobody shared anything, we'd still be, running around in animals with stone weapons and tools, which is nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want to do. I mean, you want to run around animal skins and do a Stone Age reenactment and carry a club and knock the people on top of the head and carry them back to the cave. Whether hair, that's okay. Not for me, no hair. But to have the new eyes, I mean, when hello, happy Sunday to you too. First, showed up. So anyway, back to what I was saying. When you have the new eyes, you have like 10 people come into the room, and you're going to get 10 different ways of looking at things. One of my favorite questions is if you go into a room full, let's say 11 or 12 blacksmiths, and you ask a question about a problem, you'll probably come out with 10, 11, or 12 answers to the problem that would all work. Blacksmiths have been notorious for that. Knife makers, not so much. Not when I first started. They were really tight-lipped, especially the pattern welders. Oh boy, they would not say anything to anybody. But that's the reason I wrote my books. I want to get the information out there, because we get 5 or 6 people doing something. Those 5 or 6 tell 3 or 4 people each. Those 5 or 6 people are now like 18 to 24. And those people tell 5 or 6 people. Now it's over 100. And it just gradually gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And people start getting different ideas and start trying different things. And those successes get added to the vernacular. And the failures are learned from. And they get more interest. And pretty soon, we're getting the stuff we have now. I mean, if you look at the state of pattern welding is now with this mosaic stuff, 100 years ago, it was like, the only person who had anything close to that was JP Hrisoulas. And he did the Liberty Bar back in 1796, right around there. I said Liberty, Fraternity, and what else? Liberty, Brotherhood, and something other. Liberty, Fraternity, I forgot what the third thing was. And it was done in like a mosaic-like pattern where you could cut through the axis of the bar. It would actually have those 3 words. Then you got Daryl Meyer, who was totally bonkers with the American flag Bowie knife. I seen that. It is mind-blowing. I can see why he doesn't want to talk about how he did it, because I know how he did it. He's a more patient man than I ever was, but the thing is amazing. If you ever get a chance to see it, you gotta go to the White House. I don't know if it's on display. It was when I was there. But a lot of this mosaic stuff, it's, in a way, it's cheating, but another way, it's not. It's basically taking the pattern welding process to the next level. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not for me. I just have really no interest in it. I prefer the more traditional patterns, because there's so much research we did on that. Even now, we're still just scratching the surface the way these swords were put back together 1,500 years ago. And I'm seeing these things, looking at the X-rays. When I get my hot little hands on one, looking real close, and it's amazing what these guys are doing with little more than a rock anvil, hold the ground for a forge, a hammer, and a pair of tongs, and a lot of helpers. It's really something to realize that that's it. Now they had power hammers. They had water powered power hammers. A power hammer goes back to ancient Egypt. There are friezes, I guess you call them friezes, or hieroglyphics on walls of places that actually show a power hammer being used to thresh grain and a few other things. So it's just one step away from threshing grain to hammering iron. But it's the way things go. Things come into fashion. Things go out of fashion. I'm old school. I'm face, and I'm proud of it. I'm stubborn to the point of being dogmatic, and that's the way I am. I'm the cranky old bastard, and I have no problem telling people that. But I also know enough to appreciate the work that goes into some of these quote unquote mosaic pieces. But that's a lot of pre-planning on these things, because hopefully everything works out. You scored a piece of knives at an auction. Hey, Jack. Okay, what knife did you score at an auction? I'm just being nosy. Hey, Jack. We're talking about pattern welding. That got me interested here. So, but yeah, pattern welding is interesting stuff. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. Oh, double-edged dagger. Okay. Carbon steel, cable, pattern weld, what? It's always interesting to see how these things change hands. But carbon thing. Well, if there's no funny lines on it, it's not pattern weld or cable. I've made a lot of carbon steel daggers. Thousands of them. Still make a ton of them. Oh, jeez, but it's going to be interesting the way things go. No lines, it's carbon steel, probably 1095, 1084, 1095. Those are the steels I still use today. It's a good steel, very, very stable, very solid steel. The reason I started using 1095 is back when I first joined the service, I fell in with a couple of warrant officers, chopper pilots, and I was a young kid, and one of the guys gave me his little knife, one of those K-bar pilot knives, with a 6 or 7 inch blade with a sawtooth back and the stone stuff like that. And I put that on my TA-50, my web gear, and we crashed. Nobody got hurt bad. I think the one people with the co-pilot, and the co-pilot busted 3 fingers on one of his hands, and the pilot broke his leg up pretty bad. But we were pretty much crunched in with this H10, and I couldn't get out, so I had my little survival knife. I started chomping through the side of the helicopter, and boy, those things are not they're really easy to cut out. But there's a lot of junk in them. I mean, a lot of insulation and padding and fiberglass and stuff like that. I cut through it, and the thing was still sharp. I mean, after I cut my way out, I didn't cut like a door. I just cut a big hole. We just crawled out. And we got out there. We can open the door and get the pilots out. But I'm thinking, I got to find out what the stuff was. So I wrote Camillus, and they wrote me back saying it's 1095 salt treated. And what the hell is salt treated? I didn't know what that meant So I did a little more research, and I found out they heat it up in molten salt, and they quench it in lower temperature salt, and that's it. And it's steel's hard and for hell, but it's tougher than a 50-cent steak. And that was the story of 1095 in me. So I'm thinking, I got to get more of this stuff. Then I found out from somebody that worked for Nicholson Files that Nicholson Black Diamond steel, Black Diamond Files, 1095. Salt. Treated. Who'd have thought? I mean, 1095 is everywhere. People get kind of nosy if they make it over here to see what kind of kitchen knives I have. Old hickory, 1095. Yeah, they're not pretty. Yeah, if you cut an orange with them or cheese, they're going to turn color. Yeah, if you don't take care of them, they'll rust. I'll tell you what, they cut great. 1095 is nice. Nice steel. I love it. And it's getting a little hard to find, but you still find it. There's a gentleman in New Jersey called the New Jersey Steel Baron. He runs melts on that from some I don't know. I don't know who they have doing it, but well, yeah, if you polish anything up, it'll make you a little more impervious to rust, but it's going to turn color, and that's just surface oxidation. It's not rust. It's really, well, it is an oxidation, but it's not rust. It's a chemical reaction between the material and the acids or the alkalis. Just make sure it's not red. I've got a couple of old hickory pocket knives here. The blades are black, and that's from that. The P38 I carry around my neck on my dog tag chain. That blade on the part that cuts the can, actually, that's black. The one I got on my key ring for my vehicles in my house, that's that same way. That blade's black. I got a P51 here on my desk, which is a P38's bigger brother. This is brand new. I haven't really used it yet. Blade's still not black, but it will turn black eventually. That's just the way 1095 is. Like I said, it's a good steel. Don't sell it short. Another good steel is 440C. 440 has a bad name. 440, quote unquote, 440 has a bad name because most of it's 440A or 440B, which is really not that great a cutlery steel. But 440C, that was a standard for years. Bob Loveless used it for years before it came up with 154CH or ATS 34, which is, ATS 34 154CH. It's the same steel. One's just electric melt, the other one isn't. And 154 CH is basically a modified 440C. God, I know a lot of stuff. But, steel is steel. It's going to behave like steel. And if you know what elements do when you add them to it, you can pretty much figure out what should happen when you use it. But then again, sometimes you can be a little wrong and it surprises you. So that's why you have to keep an eye on it, what you're doing, and take a lot of notes and make sure you notice anything that's not the way it should be on that. But let's talk about knife care, since they we're talking about it here on the side. On the carbon steel stuff, your 01, your 10 series, your die steel, your L series, your S series, that aren't considered quote unquote rust resistant stainless or rust free, they will rust if you add water. Sometimes it'll rust just from the moisture in the air. Sometimes it'll oxidize different colors from what you're cutting, especially organ meats. If you've got a carbon steel hunting knife and you're gutting somebody, you're gutting something, and it hits that visceral fluid in the abdominal cavity, chances are it's going to turn colors. And that's the way it is. You can buff it out, you can rough it out, you can do everything else, but I just clean it, oil it, and then, continue to march, because it's a working knife. I don't care in terms of colors. All I care about is just cutting. Now, what to oil it with? That's the question. If you're not going to be cutting anything that you're going to eat, 3-in-1 oil is excellent. The old Singer sewing machine oil, if they still make it, was also excellent. Marvel Mystery Oil, that's going back a ways, is very good. Then there's my favorite, snake oil. Yep, snake oil. Right here. Smells like licorice. Wife hates it. Most women hate the smell of this stuff. I don't know why. I put behind my ears, use it for cologne. I love that stuff. It's a rust preventative. It's preservative. It's a leather dressing. It's a wood finish. It's antibacterial. It's everything but a 4-wax and dessert topping. Non-toxic to warm-blooded critters. Coil. That's something I haven't heard for a while. Yeah, I've used that. The nice thing about the Ballistol is not, like I said, it's not toxic, and coil is toxic. Then there was that stuff I used to use back in my competition shooting days. Was a cleaner, solvent, and preservative, was Ed's Red, which was a mixture of lanolin, automatic transmission fluid, and a couple other things, acetone, and a few other little bits of witch's brew that they put in there, and it cut the fouling, out of a barrel. It also wasn't too good for your skin, but the lanolin helped a little bit on that. But just keep them clean, keep them dry, keep them lightly oiled. Stay away from mineral oil. Stay away from olive oil. Anything that's organic like that will break down and cause you problems eventually. But find something you like and use it. I like, for honing, I use kerosene or a mixture of kerosene and diesel fuel. That keeps the stone pores open. Plus, if the stone pores get loaded up with steel, you can soak the stone in kerosene a little bit for a couple hours. Take it out, and don't do this for your wife at home. Bake it. It's going to stink up the house, or do it outside a toaster oven. Bake it about 325 degrees, and just watch all that crap come out of the pores of stone. Renaissance wax, that's a microcrystalline wax. I've used it. I don't particularly care for it. I know a couple people that swear by it. It all depends on what you're used to. I prefer just light coat oil. On the stuff that I put up my display cases, like in the house here, I oil them down with some Ballistol and just leave them, check them out every month. Make sure everything's fine. Any problem? But the museum, the Renaissance wax is used a lot in museum curated work, preserving, a lot of restoration stuff. I've had a lot of people that like it. I just don't really particularly care for it. I have a problem with any kind of wax anyway, because unless you're like 100% certain you didn't touch the piece, or there's no moisture on it, and you seal that wax over it, you basically just seal the moisture down to the surface of the knife, and that's going to be asking for problems. But if you're good and you're careful, you shouldn't have a problem. But that's the way I see it. I've used it before. I've got a jar around it here somewhere, and it's one of those things you love it or hate it. And I sort of like in the middle there. I'll use it if I have another choice. But as far as metal polishes go, semi-chrome, right there, semi-chrome. Little dab will do you. This cuts through everything. Don't use Brasso. Oh my God. Even though I got some Brasso here, don't use it. Not anything you don't want to be really, really aggressive on. If I got a piece that has some heavy oxidation, I mean, you got verdigris on it and it is greener than an alligator's hiney, okay? I'll use the Brasso. I would also use the stuff called Blue Magic. Same thing as hemichrome, but a little more aggressive, a little more, well, I'd say a little more harsh. Okay? Semi-chrome is a little bit aggressive, but not to the point where you can actually start removing material with a Brasso. With the ammonia in it, ammonia is not good for copper. Ammonia is not good for zinc. Ammonia is not good for tin. But it will cut through the verdigris and the oxidation, and it can actually get up under, if there's any corrosion, get up under where that corrosion is and lift it out, so it will clean that out. But it's very, very aggressive and very harsh. But I would do the heavy removal with the Brasso and then follow up with the Blue Magic or the Semi-Chrome or the Flitz. Flitz is another one that's like Blue Magic and Semi-Chrome. I think they're all by the same basic company. And there's only 3 companies in the world that make everything. That's the way I feel. But any of the quality polish, like Semi-Chrome, Flitz, Blue Magic, that works. Never Dull. I was short about that from a friend of mine who was a Navy SEAL, and they use a lot of that in the Navy, even though they're not supposed to. They used a lot on shipboard, and he swore by it. He had a tub of it. It's a rag, basically impregnated with like Brasso, and it's just like this little thing of fluff. It feels kind of a little bit slimy. It just cuts everything off too. That cuts it real well, but it all depends on what you're doing and what you're used to. Maintenance on let's talk about wood maintenance. On my knives here, I use a mixture of tung oil and beeswax. Now I like the tung oil because it gets in there and it hardens up real nice. I don't like linseed oil because it can get gummy, and plus it's really not that great to have around the workshop because if you're not careful and you have these linseed oil soaked cotton cloths, chances are you're going to have a fire. I did this a couple of times just to prove a point with unboiled linseed oil on some cotton rags. And I just set them out there in a little pile and just watch it get hotter and hotter and hotter until it finally burst the flame, it took a while. I mean, it took a couple of days, but you couldn't molest it, have to sit there. But then again, there's a lot of stuff you have in the studio that can really screw yourself up, like potassium permanganate, KMS before, and glycerin, or potassium manganate crystals and antifreeze freeze, or brake fluid. It'll start a fire because that potassium permanganate is a major oxidizer, and it'll start a fire right up. Pretty color, it'll start a fire, burn your house down. But you gotta be careful when you start playing with these chemicals. Yeah. A lot of never dull polish. Yeah, SSR, yeah, they would. And the Saratoga. But yeah, they just buy it by the can. You gotta be careful of that stuff though. It's a little bit toxic too. The ammonia. Doesn't smell too bad, but it's got that little slimy feel to it. But anyway, back to the wood. So depending on the wood, um, whether it's an oily wood like a cocoa bolo or various types of rosewoods, I'll use the tung oil, and it's basically a uh, wipe on, sit for like 10 minutes, wipe it off, wipe another one on, let it sit for a few minutes and wipe it off, and then just take one more little poke. We'll just wipe it on, then just wipe it off at the same time, and that'll give you a nice coat of a finish on there. Nice thing about the tung oil is it is self-solvent, so if you have to go in and retouch finish, it will do that and not build up in the area around it. So it'll just sort of melt it into the wood. On your other woods, let's say like open grain woods, like your walnut and ash and a few other open grain woods, as far as finish goes, you can fill it with commercial filler, but I like to basically finish it with the finish applied using a 600 grit paper, sandpaper, and that takes the sanding dust, incorporates that in with the finish itself, and that gets into the grain, and it just sort of like matches right in there perfectly. There are places that you can use a acrylic filler, which gets below the surface into the open grain and hardens and gives you this glass-like surface on the top, but you can actually go see into the grain itself, which is not unattractive in its own self. I've seen a Pennsylvania long rifle done with a curly ash stock that was made about 5 years ago, and the gentleman that did the work on it, built the rifle, used this acrylic. It was acrylic finish on it, and it looked just gorgeous. Here again, you could actually see down into the grain on the ash, and he flamed it before he did anything, bring out the curl a little bit more. And not an unattractive piece, and if you like that sort of thing, to me it just looked odd. That's okay, you know. Can't have everything for everybody else, you know. But wood, it can be a fun thing. Now, Cara wood, I haven't tried beeswax and BLO. Didn't like the outcome, grainy and sticky. Oh, you shouldn't use the ebony. On the ebony, you can get away with just a good quality. No. That's we're here for answer questions. No, no problem there. On the ebony, you'll be fine with just a really good quality wax, like a carnauba wax. The same with some rosewoods, but the ebony or African or Burmese blackwood, back when Johnson & Johnson was still making their paste floor wax, that had a lot of carnauba in it. And I would go out and buy extra carnauba, melt the wax in the can, and then add more carnauba to it, mix it up real well, and then use that. It's very hard wax, and it seals up everything beautifully. It does take a little more elbow grease to get it all smoothed out and buffed out, but yeah, you really don't need to do much on ebony or Burmese blackwood or some of the rosewoods, unless they're open grained, and there are a few open grained rosewoods out there. But you're like your East Indian rosewood, which is purple and almost the point of black. It's so oily, you really don't need a finish outside that little bit of wax. The 50-50 mix of tung oil and wax. You got to be careful when you start getting into the beeswax, because if you get the raw beeswax, it's going to act a lot differently than the stuff that's been refined. All the goody stuff are taken out of it. Now, I like beeswax for a leather finish. A 50-50 mixture of beeswax and neathfoot oil applied hot to a piece of leather will basically make it bulletproof as far as finish goes. It doesn't smell that bad, but It can get messy down in the stitches because it will turn white if you're not careful. And if you add too much in there, it'll whiten up and that looks like crap. But if you apply it judiciously, oh, freaking atheist! All right, make me feel inadequate. I just think bees are amazing little critters. I would be a beekeeper in a heartbeat, but I am allergic. Boy, am I allergic. Doctor said next one will kill me, even with the EpiKit. Yeah, they're amazing, amazing critters. That's one of those things that go back a long time in the history of beekeeping. And I tell you, they're very vital and they're wonderful things to see. Just watch them. I remember when I was a kid, I went to the Pennsylvania State Fair and they had a what do I call it, exhibition hive things. Well, when you're a little kid, I mean everything seems huge, right? It seemed like this entire wall was nothing but honeycomb and bees in there. They're coming and going, doing this and doing that and everything else. I sit there and watch it for like an hour. Just didn't say a word, just like watching it. But they'll kill me, you know. And it's like I always said, that which does not kill me pisses me off. But I appreciate it. One of my friends, the guard unit, he was a beekeeper. He was always bringing me chunks of beeswax and honey and stuff like that. He did a wild desert honey, which is basically a lot of mesquite and whatever else was blooming out there. And boy, that was good stuff. It was dark, very dark. And then when the cactus were blooming, it was amazingly different flavor of honey. I guess different flowers have different flowers, different nectar, different flavors. But how the bees do it, that's a mystery of God. But yeah, beeswax is some good stuff. But as far as wood finish goes, it's a little soft and can get sticky. But on leather, when you cut it with yeastwood oil and it soaks down into the leather itself, it actually basically comes with a nice buff to it. It will waterproof it and will preserve it to a point. Of course, the yeastwood oil helps a lot too. I've never had it get sticky after that, but I'm not saying it can't happen. But you got to be very judicious in your application. But it's like anything else. You got to take care of it, and you can't have too much of it. Because if a little bit's good, a lot might not be better, depending on what it is. If it's a leather finish, you got to be, careful as to what kind of leather you have, whether it's vegetable tan, aka oak tan, or chrome tan or oil tan. The chrome tan, that's your commercial grade leathers. Your vegetable tan, that's most of the stuff that leather workers get for tooling and stuff like that. That's most knife makers use that. And the oil tan leather, that's mostly harness leather. But it's still available. You can still use it, but it finishes different. Excuse me. And you gotta be careful when you make something out of it that you put the right finish. It's not all finishes are compatible with everybody else. As far as leather finish goes, it seems that Febrings and a couple other companies have that pretty much sewn up as far as what's available. I've used that. I was blew my mind. Tandy used to sell it. You cut it with water a little bit. They say you're not supposed to, but I do because I want to get down into the leather, just not on the surface. So I'll put a couple of coats on there with the water. It soaks down in there. The water acts as a vehicle to bring the leather, bring the acrylic into its comfort acrylic, and then take the uncut stuff, the lowest coat, and coat over that. It can be nice semi-gloss finish if you buff up a little bit. But here again, it's what you want to do. With leather down here, it's so wet, you got to be real careful, because if you keep a knife in there and you don't have any oil on it, it's going to eat the knife. The moisture in the air is going to eat the knife, and that would be a shame. I've had that happen on a couple pattern welded pieces where I'm like, oops, oh boy, that's refinish time. And I had one I almost couldn't save. It got to be real interesting on that. But a lot of interesting stuff going on with leather finishes. These acrylics are coming up with now are amazing. As far as the leather dyes, as I said before, I use wood stain, use alcohol-based wood stain. I can't see spending $30 for a quart of leather dye where I can get a gallon for that much. I mix it myself. I use the alcohol-based wood stains and use denatured alcohol, which for some reason is getting harder and harder to find in some places. Something to do with being a fuel now or something like that, or some proposition somewhere called it a carcinogenic. I don't know. These lawyers, they got to ruin everything. I tell you, these guys can screw up a wet dream. But nice thing about using the wood stains are that you can mix colors and come up with your own color combination of, if you want a really bright red or a dark red or thing with certain color undertones, you can mix it up as well. It works on leather, it works on the wood, it works on bone. Now the problem with the bone is sometimes it doesn't permeate into the surface. The integrity of the surface is so dense it doesn't accept the dye, or the alcohol can't penetrate it, even under vacuum. But then again, sometimes it gets so well saturated that it's solid color. You don't get any kind of character or color variation at all, which is fine. But I like the model color here. Let's see if I think I got one here somewhere. Yeah, I got one right here. That has the model on it. This was done with the leather dye on just black on the bone. You can see it's got the modeling on it. It's a Hoots blade. I got to send this off to the guy that owns it. And it's attractive. It's very eye-catching, and every piece is unique. They're not going to come out the same. You can put 3 pieces of bone from the same critter in the dye, the same dye pot, put it under the vacuum, come back next morning, break the vacuum, let it dry, finish it up, and it's going to be different. Even on the same piece of bone, it's going to be different. This was finished with cyanoacrylate and buffed up to polished to 600 grit, then buffed with black grease on the size wheel, and then white rouge on a sewn muslin buff, and it gets it's like glass. It gets like glass. It's good stuff. But every piece is different, and got to take that into consideration and work with it accordingly. That's what's so nice about this as a art form or a living or a vocation or avocation, whatever it is. There's so many variations to the theme here, and you can really become addicted to it. I did. When people first start getting into this, they start really getting serious. I look at them and I tell them 3 things. First, I apologize for ruining their life, because it's going to be an ongoing, lifelong obsession. Second is I tell them to look at their hands, because right now it's probably the cleanest you'll ever see your hands ever again until the day you die. And third is no matter how bad a piece is when you make it, don't destroy it. Save it. If you think you've got a mistake somewhere that you can't solve right now, put it away till you get better. Okay. don't throw anything away. Even the stuff you think is totally foobar, don't toss it, because chances are 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road, you'll be able to look at it and say, I could save that. And you do. So I'm not saying being a pack rat, because I got a boneyard the size of, basically a 30-gallon trash can full of stuff. And I root through there a lot. I take out little pieces of bone and stuff like that. Dinosaur bone. Yes, I have seen people use dinosaur bone. I've also seen them use mastodon teeth, which is a funny material. But yeah, the fossilized dinosaur bone, I've seen that done. I've seen a lot of stellar sea cow bone, fossilized manatee, fossil horse, North American horses, whatever they call it, up and through here. I don't know if they would call them fossilized or mineralized or what. I don't know what the cutoff date is for fossils. Some people say I'm a fossil. But as far as using it, I would say it's basically works like a stone. It's basically what it is. It's mineralized. Yeah, I've been a lapidary since I was a kid. I got some stones here I cut not too long ago. Sitting on my desk. I got some more stuff out of it. These little piece of labradorite. I love this labradorite. It is a nice. It actually comes up pretty good. It's somewhat translucent. This is the good stuff. Well, you can really see it there. I love this stuff. It's a type of feldspar, and it's neat stuff if you orient it right. It's just like trying to get the is in a star ruby or a star sapphire. You got to cut that so the silk is in the right orientation to the cut, so you actually get the star forming where it should form. I've got some of those around here somewhere. I've got one here. No, I don't have any. I've got a bag full of rubies and somewhere around here. I got a whole box full of star rubies I cut years ago. I have a friend in northern India whose family owns a gem mine, and he sends me a lot of rough. Sometimes he sends me to cut stones, and I don't know where that box is right now. I'll find it. And I've got star sapphires and rubies. I put them on the chafes and lockets sometimes on stone, sometimes on the pommel as well, on stuff I'm feeling all fancy schmancy and want to get a little uppity. But yeah, I've been lapidary for years. It's like down here, you don't find much except these things. Megalodon tooth. Yes, I got a lot of stuff on my desk. What else I got on here? Oh yeah, my James Bond ring. Yeah, there. Spectre. Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, and Extortion. Don't want to be number one because number two is always coming to get you. But yeah, lapidary can be a lot of fun. Like I said, around here, the only stones you get a lot of calcium stuff, calcite stuff, fossilized coral, shells. That's about it. You go north a little bit, up into Georgia and Carolinas, or up into Arkansas, you start getting the good stuff. When I was in southern Nevada, I used to go dig trilobites up past Mount Charleston, up on the other side of Mount Potosi, where Colonel Lombard flew into that damn mountain by the 1940s. That was sad. But a lot of copper stuff out there, a lot of turquoise, a lot of malachite. Pudding stone. Is that hard? Well, it should be hard enough. I know people use turquoise for a handle, so I get pudding stone hard turquoise. I mean, yeah, I use wood stone. I seen a guy use it's not really a stone, it's corian. That stuff is soft too, but it was interesting. But I'm afraid of dropping it. I've got a old conjar that my family owns that my grandfather gave me to the family for years and years and years and years. That's got a really funky type of marble handle on it. I don't know where it is right now. I think someone's putting it. I don't know. I've never used that stuff. I've never used corian. Um, I've seen rock crystal used for dagger hilts, especially over in Mesopotamia. Same with jade. Jade was very popular at that point. They traded with Chinese with it, and they would carve one piece grips out of jade, and then set the dagger blades in there using cutler's resin. And those are some gorgeous. I think you've seen a sword hilt stone that way. I don't know how well it will work in combat because jade is a stone can be pretty brittle, and any vibration might just shatter it. But for a dagger, yeah, I don't see any problem with it. Like I said, I've seen rock crystal done. I've seen jade, various colors of jade, marble on older pieces, as well as some other stones like turquoise or lapis. I saw a lapis dagger blade when I was over in 2004. That was just carved from a hunk of lapis, and oh my God, it was just gorgeous. They would have missed it if I took it. I was really tempted there, boy, but it was a beautiful, beautiful carving. It was done on a horse's head, and it was just, I mean, it looked like a blue horse. It really did. And there was just enough calcite and pyrite in the lapis to really bring out the beauty of the stone. Um, I came back with a lot of rough lapis. I still got it. I used to go up the hills and trade them with the Afghanis, but I really wasn't supposed to be doing that. But I did it anyway. We did a lot of stuff we really weren't supposed to. It's a gray area. We're not supposed to be doing it, but if you did it, you just don't be blatant about it and get the way it was. But yeah, rock cutting it can be something like that. As far as faceting goes, forget it. I don't have the touch for it. I don't have the eye. You got to be a mathematician and have really good eyes to cut a good facet stone. If you look traditionally the way it's did with a pegboard, it was amazing. You just sit there sticking on peg, change the hole, change the hole, change the hole. That came out of Indo-Persia. That's where it came from. Now cutting opal, that could be a lot of fun. Opal cutting could be fun. But you got to be careful you don't cut through the opal, especially the boulder opal. You get stuff from the black boulder opal from Australia, or some of the opal like from here in the United States, up down in Mexico fire opal, stuff like that. You do have some regular common opal that you find every now and then. It doesn't have much color to it. You might have a little red in there, a little blue, maybe a little green or yellow, but it's not like the Australian stuff, which is basically graduation from opal. But you got to be careful with it. It's so soft and delicate that you can chip it out and break it. But it's like everything else. Garnet's another good stone. You can set it as into a sheath or make a cabochon on. I love garnet. Garnet's a beautiful stone. Various types of quartz. Rose quartz, your amethysts. You can use opal with work an opal with carbide with silicon carbide sandpaper. I've done it. I mean, it's amazing the stuff you can do, and it's interesting. It's a whole new skill set. It's like engraving. I haven't got the hands for engraving. I don't have the eye for it. I can do it, but it looks like stick figures. And I've seen some engravers. I remember I've seen a couple pieces by James Meek that just blew me away. That's like scrimshaw. Um, I am very fortunate that I knew Mr. Bob Egnath for many years, and when he passed, that killed me. It tore my heart out. He was perhaps the finest living scrimshander, traditional black and white, that the world had at that time. He was alive. He could do a portrait with that black and white photograph. I've got a scene from the battle, the tourney at Acre, uh, that he did on a chunk of, uh, I want to say mammoth ivory or mastodon. Some fossil ivory found that big. It's gorgeous. But he was a very talented man, and he was also one of the best knife grinders I've ever seen. As well as he started getting into making these Japanese sword blades. Uh, he did heat treating over my place, come to Nevada, and we're still in California. We could come over and do heat treat, and we were like little kids. We were using 1045, 1060, and I get the forge filed up, and we just sit there and just heat treat them. And we were like kids on a Christmas morning trying to figure out if these things work. We went over there, and fresh them up, we check the light. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it came up pieces, but that was the fun stuff. But he was a very, very talented man, and when he passed, that was very sad. I lost a very good friend, very good friend. Anyway, anybody have any more questions before I call it a night? I'm getting kind of hungry. I want to thank everybody for showing up. I'll see you next week. Oh. There might not be a knife chat next week. Depends on what's going on with my wife. Like I said, she goes in on Thursday. They said she's going to be in at least one, maybe 2 nights, which will put her home either Friday or Saturday. I don't know what she's going to be going through on those days when she's home. This is major surgery. I'm quite worried about this, but what happens, happens. I'm sure she'll be okay. Fingers crossed. But I might not be on there. If there is going to be one, I will put a notice on the on my postings. I want to thank you all for stopping by. I really appreciate you stopping by. Thank you so much. Please, when you see my videos, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. I'm like 100 short of 3,000 subscribers. I'm trying to get them up there, but my problem is, thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. Sue does too. I'm trying to get this word out. I'm not an entertainment channel. I'm not like these young, charismatic blacksmith wannabe entertainer, influencer people. I'm not. That's not what this channel is about. My channel is about information, how to do things. There's no real set curriculum. There's no set syllabus. What happens, happens. When I'm working on that day, if I want to do a video and I can, I'll do it. The next one I'll be doing is making little butt caps, little thin butt caps out of copper or bronze or brass, and how to make those up with a thread onto the back end of a tank. I'll be doing that sometime in the future. I also have a couple others I want to do about cold forming guards and how to bend stuff and how to use other little things for things. I'm going to do one on casting bar stock. I can do that by setting up. It'll be like a 2 or 3 episode series. One will be making the mold. 2 will be melting material. And 3 will be pouring it. I can do all that one day. So I want to do that. But like I said, I'm not an entertainer. I don't claim to be. I never played one on television. And so I just want to get this information out of my head because there's so much you can put into a book, and sometimes more things happen when you're talking to somebody because things come up and a question's asked they never thought about answering because you didn't know the question. And I want that. I mean, I got so much stuff in my head, it hurts at times. There's so much I want to get out, and God bless, I've sold a lot of books. And whether I like it or not, I'm in a position in the industry where I don't know. A friend of mine sent me some sort of article or something, And it was very, very thought-provoking, very humbling. And I had no idea that I was held in such a place. And I don't like that. I mean, the worst thing you can do is embarrassing. I mean, when somebody comes up and says, "Oh my God, you're him," and it makes me feel like, well, that tall ass will hide my back. You know? But somebody comes and says, "I like your book. You sign it for me." I'll sign your book. You know? I might even write something there for you. But just don't do this. "Oh my God, you're him." Sort of thing. No, please don't. It's very embarrassing. But I want to get the stuff out of my head, onto paper, onto video. Got to get out there. Let that be my legacy to the world. I want to be known as the guy that broke this all open. And that's basically what I want to do. So that's why I'm on these episodes, these videos. It's interesting. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot of what not to do, as well as learning a lot of stuff to do. But I'm working on it. And like I said, I guess this week can be very busy. And thank you all once again for your well wishes. Thank you for having me in your home. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate this. May the blessings of Hura Mazda be upon you and your family. May the wise Lord keep you all. And may they keep you safe. And remember, once more, say a prayer for those folks that live their lives so our country can be still here and we enjoy the freedoms that other places don't have. You can say whatever you want to about the United States, but even the people that hate it here don't want to leave because it is the greatest country in the world. And it's probably the greatest country in history. I'm not saying that because I'm a United States citizen. I'm saying that because basically it is. And and one more thing. There is a recording done by Hudson and Landry. It's called "The Fate of the Mightiest Nation." If you get a chance to listen to it and think. It's very thought-provoking. So be that as it may, thank you once again. Good night. The wise Lord bless you.